It was raining when it happened. Hard rain, the kind that hits the street like broken glass. She was on the pavement, bleeding, her badge still clipped to her belt. A cop, left to die. No backup. No sirens. No one coming for her. He knelt beside her, hands shaking as he tried to stop the bleeding. But she grabbed his wrist and whispered, voice cracked and terrified, "Do not call the police. They are the ones hunting me. If you are here right now, listen closely. This is not just a story. This is a warning. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. Your comment helps this video get seen by more people who need to hear this. And if you are new here, subscribe, because after today you will understand how easy it is to trust the wrong badge. Now, let's go back to the night everything started to fall apart. The rain kept falling, washing the blood into the gutter. Streetlights flickered pale yellow across the pavement. He looked around. No cars, no footsteps, no witnesses. The city was wide awake, yet somehow silent. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes barely open. "Stay with me," he said. She tried to speak but choked on the taste of metal. Another cough, more blood. He took off his coat and pressed it against her side. She flinched, teeth clenched, but she didn't push him away. A police radio somewhere in the distance crackled. Static, then silence. She grabbed his shirt, fingers wet and cold. "Please," she whispered, "do not call them. They will finish what they started." Her voice broke. The fear in it was real. He nodded once, no questions, no hesitation. He lifted her carefully, as if she were glass. Her head fell against his chest. The city lights blurred past him as he moved. No one stopped him. No one even looked. People walked faster, eyes down, pretending not to see. He carried her to the car, opened the door, and laid her across the seat. Her badge shined under the streetlight for a moment, catching his eye. Elise Carter, Chicago Police Department. He closed the door. The elevator doors opened to the top floor, quiet and warm compared to the cold city outside. He carried her inside, the echo of his footsteps swallowed by the soft marble floor. The penthouse was dim, lit only by the city lights filtering through tall glass windows. Chicago shimmered below, unaware of the life bleeding out above it. He laid her on the long leather sofa, breathing hard, chest tight. Her skin was pale, her uniform was torn, her service weapon was missing. He moved quickly. A towel, a bowl of warm water, alcohol, bandages. His hands were steady now, controlled. He cleaned the wound slowly, carefully removing dried blood and gravel. She winced, but didn't speak. When he poured the alcohol over the cut, she gasped and grabbed his wrist again. Her eyes opened wider this time. They were sharp, alert, even through the pain. "You're not calling anyone?" she whispered. "No." She looked at him as though trying to read his intentions, trying to decide if he was a safer enemy than the one already hunting her. "You should leave me," she said. Her voice was stronger now, though the trembling in her hands betrayed her. "If they know I survived, they will come here next, and they won't hesitate." He didn't answer. He just continued wrapping the bandage around her waist, slow and precise, as if time weren't running out. Outside, thunder rolled low across the skyline. She swallowed hard. "My name is Elise Carter," she said at last. "Detective, organized crime. I was undercover for 8 months. Someone inside the department sold us out." Her eyes dimmed. A memory she didn't want surfaced. "They killed my partner," she whispered. The room fell still. He looked at her, not with pity, not with shock, just steady, focused attention. She seemed almost puzzled by his calm. "You're not asking questions." "I will when you're not bleeding," he replied. She exhaled, slow and painful. Her shoulders loosened. Not trust, just relief at not having to explain everything at once. He finished bandaging her wound and stood. "Drink," he said, handing her a glass of water. She sat up, weak but stubborn, and sipped. The glass rattled softly against her teeth. She looked around the penthouse. Expensive, quiet, a space built for someone who didn't want to be seen. "You live alone," she said. "Yes." She studied him now. The sharp suit, the watch, the silence behind his eyes. "You're not a doctor." "No." "You're not military." "No." She hesitated. "So what are you?" He didn't answer. Not yet. Her breathing steadied. Color returned to her face, but exhaustion settled in her limbs like lead. He pulled a blanket over her carefully. "You're safe here for now. Rest." Her eyelashes lowered, heavy. Her hand loosened its grip around the glass. Sleep pulled her under slowly. He stood near the window, watching the city through the rain-smeared glass. His reflection looked back at him. The man who brought a dying cop into his home, the man who did not call the authorities, the man who knew exactly what kind of corruption she was talking about. Lightning flashed, his jaw tightened. He had not told her his name, or why he was really there that night. Elise woke to the sound of quiet. Not hospital quiet, not police station quiet. A different kind, the kind that comes from being high above the city, where even sirens sound distant. She blinked slowly, her eyes adjusting to the soft morning light trickling in through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The skyline stretched out in a hazy blue, the river cutting through it like a vein. Her side ached. The bandages were clean. The bleeding had stopped. She sat up carefully. He was already awake. Standing near the kitchen counter, making coffee, wearing a white shirt with the sleeves rolled back, forearms marked with faint scars she couldn't place. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she cleared her throat. "How long was I out?" 8 hours. She nodded, absorbing it. "You treated me yourself?" "Yes." "Why?" He didn't look up as he set a mug down in front of her. "Because calling an ambulance would have gotten you killed." She held his gaze, searching for uncertainty, doubt, hesitation. There was none. She wrapped her hands around the mug, letting the warmth settle into her palms. Her voice was rough from blood loss and sleep. "I need to get back to the department." "No." She looked up sharply. "No?" He took a seat across from her. "If you show your face there, someone will finish the job. Whoever targeted you was sure you wouldn't survive." Her jaw tightened. "That's exactly why I have to go back. You want to walk straight into the hands of the person who tried to kill you?" She didn't answer. Not out of uncertainty, but because she didn't have the luxury of fear. Her eyes hardened. "My partner, Officer Marcus Hale, we were undercover, deep. We were about to deliver evidence that would expose a trafficking network tied to someone high-ranking in the department." She paused, breathing carefully. The memory scraped against her. "We were ambushed before the meeting. Marcus didn't make it." Silence pooled in the room, thick and unmoving. He leaned back slightly. "And you think someone in your unit set you up?" "I don't think," she said. "I know." Her hands trembled. She forced them to still. He studied her, not just her wounds, her resolve. "You trust no one," he said. She gave a quiet, humorless laugh. "I used to trust everyone wearing the same badge." Her eyes lifted to meet his. "Now I trust no one." A beat passed, then she asked carefully, "You saved my life." "Why?" This time he didn't look away. "I was in that neighborhood for a reason that had nothing to do with you, but when I saw you bleeding there on the street, I recognized the look in your eyes." "What look?" "The look of someone who has been betrayed by the people they were willing to die for." Her breath caught, not because of the words themselves, but because he said them like a person who knew that feeling, really knew it. She studied him again, slower this time. The scars, the quiet, the way he listened more than he spoke, a man who had lost something too. Before she could speak, her phone buzzed from the table beside the sofa. She stared at it. Screen cracked. Signal weak. One unread message, just a name. Sloan. Her commanding officer, her mentor, the one she believed had protected her. Her pulse kicked hard against her ribs. He watched her expression shift. "Who is it?" he asked. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence told him everything. The name on the screen stayed there, glowing faintly. Sloan. Lieutenant Grant Sloan. The man who had given Elise her badge. The man who taught her to shoot, to stand straight, to stare down criminals twice her size. The man who told her the department was a family. She deleted the message without opening it. Her hand shook only once. Lucas watched the motion, the way her jaw set, the way her shoulders held weight they weren't meant to carry. "You said he was your mentor," he said quietly. He was. And now? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. He leaned back in his chair. "You need to understand something," Elise said. "The man who ordered the hit on me, he isn't just a cop. He's protected. Political ties, business ties, and whoever is backing him, they have money, real money." Lucas didn't react. Not surprise, not fear, just stillness. Elise studied him. Most people froze when they realized they were up against power. He didn't. "Why are you so calm?" she asked. He kept his eyes on her. "Because this isn't the first time I've seen corruption protected by uniforms." A quiet passed. Elise tilted her head, seeing him differently now. "Who are you really, Lucas?" He took a breath, but didn't look away. "I built Hale Industries from nothing. Real estate, shipping routes, offshore development. At one point, the mayor called me the man who owned half the skyline." She blinked. That name, that company, that reputation. She had heard it whispered in the background of Chicago's elite circles, spoken with a kind of careful admiration, but the news headlines were different. "Hale Industries," she said slowly. "You disappeared from public view 5 years ago." He nodded once. "There was an investigation. Financial misconduct allegations, contracts with city officials. Half my board turned on me. A scandal the press never got tired of." She remembered now. The televised hearings, the reporters outside the courthouse, the grainy photos of Lucas stepping into black cars at night, whispers of bribes, whispers of betrayal. "You were cleared," she said. "I was," he replied, "but only after I lost the company. My business partner took control, Victor Lang." The name hit her like cold air. Victor Lang, a private investor with rumored connections to organized crime, a man she had seen mentioned in undercover intel, a man whose name appeared on documents no one was allowed to officially acknowledge. Lucas looked out at the skyline, hands braced on the counter. "Victor used the scandal to push me out. I lost everything except this penthouse. He still has influence in city contracts, police funding, political donations. He funds campaigns, he funds silence." Elise's breath slowed, and suddenly the pieces began to shift. The trafficking case, the missing evidence, the hit on her life, the department's sudden blindness. She wasn't just dealing with internal corruption. She was standing at the edge of something bigger, something engineered. Her voice was quiet. "And you think Victor is involved in what happened to me?" Lucas didn't speak. He didn't need to. The truth sat between them like a blade. Elise pushed her hands through her hair and stared at the city outside, the place she swore to protect, the place she now had to survive. Someone had cleaned up her crime scene. Someone had erased the evidence of Marcus's death. Someone wanted her gone, and that someone was protected by money. Money like the kind sitting in this room. She finally looked at Lucas again. "We're in the same war," she said. He nodded. "But you're fighting it alone." She exhaled. Not defeat, resignation, acknowledgement. "No," she said softly. "Not anymore." Thunder rolled overhead. The storm wasn't outside anymore. It was here now. Night came again, heavy and dark, settling over the city like a bruise. Elise moved slowly through the penthouse, testing her strength, her steps measured. The pain was still there, a low burn beneath the bandages, but her mind was sharper than her body now, awake, focused. Lucas had disappeared into an upper room. She assumed an office. Everything about him was precise, controlled, calculated. She needed to breathe. She stepped out onto the balcony. The wind from the river cut cold across her skin. Far below, traffic moved like veins lit in red and gold. Chicago never slept. But up here it felt distant, muted, like the world was held behind glass. She closed her eyes. Marcus's face appeared in the darkness behind them. The alley, the gunshot, his hand reaching for hers, his last words. She stopped the memory before it finished. Some things still hurt too deeply to name. Behind her, the glass door slid open. Lucas stepped out, phone in hand, his voice low and even. Yes, I need everything on Grant Sloan. Financials, donations, offshore accounts. Pull from the private side. No, not through the firm. A pause. Yes, I know what it risks. Send it anyway. He ended the call. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. He knew she heard. She went back inside. He followed. The penthouse was quiet, too quiet. Elise's body responded first. A shift of air, a subtle wrongness, instinct. Her hand reached for where her holster should have been. Empty. She scanned the room, a shadow near the kitchen, still, patient, waiting. Lucas, she breathed. He reacted immediately, stepping toward her, positioning himself between her and the figure. The shadow moved, a glint of metal, suppressed weapon. Elise grabbed the nearest object, a heavy glass whiskey bottle, and hurled it. It shattered against the counter, exploding in a rain of shards. The silence broke. The intruder lunged. Lucas moved first, tackling the man mid-stride. They collided hard, sending both crashing into the dining table. Wood splintered beneath the impact. Elise dropped to her knees, reaching under the sofa where she had stashed her gun the moment she woke. She had learned long ago never to sleep without a weapon within reach. Her fingers closed around cold steel. She rose fast. The intruder pinned Lucas with a forearm across the throat and raised the knife in his other hand. Elise fired. One shot. Clean. Precise. The man staggered back. The blade clattered to the floor. He landed against the counter, slid down slowly, and stopped moving. Elise lowered the gun, breath sharp in her chest. The only sound was the rain outside. Lucas pushed himself up, wiping blood from his cheek. He looked at the body, then at Elise. "You were right," she said. "No," he replied quietly. "You were." She didn't answer. She knelt beside the intruder, searching pockets with trained efficiency. No identification, no wallet, just a single phone. Locked, untraceable. She turned it over. On the back, scratched deep into the casing, was a symbol, a circle with a diagonal slash. Her stomach turned. She knew that mark. It was used internally for officers considered liabilities. Cops marked for removal, not arrest, not reassignment. Silenced. Lucas saw her expression shift. "What does it mean?" She stood slowly. "It means this wasn't personal." He frowned. "This was a directive," she said. "Someone in your department ordered this." Her voice was steady now, cold, focused. She wasn't running anymore. Lucas picked up the phone and set it on the counter. "We can't stay here," he said. "No," Elise replied, "but we also don't run blindly." She tightened her grip on her gun. "We move with purpose, and we choose when to be seen." Lucas studied her again. There was no fear left in her eyes, only fire. He exhaled once, a quiet acknowledgement. Partners now, whether they said it aloud or not. The city below glowed under the storm clouds. Somewhere in the maze of streets and offices and precinct halls, someone believed Elise Carter was dead. Someone believed Lucas Hale had been destroyed 5 years ago. Someone up there was confident and comfortable. Elise looked out over the skyline one more time. That ends now. They left the penthouse before sunrise. No lights on, no elevator. They took the service stairwell, 28 floors down, footsteps quiet and controlled. Elise moved slower, but her posture stayed straight, every breath steady, every step calculated. Pain did not stop her. Pain reminded her she was still alive. Lucas drove, not his usual car. This one had no registration under his name, no GPS, no digital signature, a vehicle kept for circumstances that should never have existed. The streets were slick with last night's rain, reflecting neon signs and ripples of pink and green on the pavement. The city was waking up. Trash trucks, buses, early commuters, people who would never know what their police force was hiding. Elise watched the city through the window. She used to love it. Now every street felt hostile. They stopped in a neighborhood south of the river, near older brick buildings and narrow alleys where informants liked to disappear. This was where her partner Marcus grew up. This was where she learned how to move unseen. Lucas parked in a back lot behind a shuttered repair shop. They entered through a back door, no sign, no cameras. Inside it smelled like oil and dust. A man in his late 50s sat at a metal desk, sorting old radios and stacks of paperwork. He didn't look up when they walked in. Elise stepped forward. "Ray." The man froze. He didn't turn his head. He didn't breathe for a moment. Then slowly, he lifted his eyes. "Elise," he said softly, "I heard you were dead." His voice carried something heavy, not shock, regret. Elise didn't smile. "I was supposed to be." Ray stood and locked the back door. He limped slightly, a knee injury he never got fixed. Too expensive. No insurance. He was one of the department's ghosts, a man who knew everything and spoke nothing. "You shouldn't be here," Ray said. His eyes flicked to Lucas, reading him in seconds. "He's with me," Elise said. Ray didn't question it. He pointed to the only 2 chairs in the room. They didn't sit. Ray sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Listen," he said. "The department is split right now. People are scared. Sloan is pulling strings no one can see. Cases are vanishing. Reports are being rewritten. Anyone asking questions disappears." Elise's jaw clenched. "And the investigation Marcus and I were working?" Ray's silence was the answer. Gone. Deleted. Erased. Elise took a slow breath, steady but sharp. "We need proof," she said. Ray let out a small laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "Proof? Elise, the kind of men you're dealing with don't leave proof. They leave bodies." He stepped closer to her. "You have to walk away." She shook her head. "I can't." Ray's voice dropped to a whisper. "They already marked you. Once that happens, you don't get a second chance." Elise didn't look away. "I know." The old cop stared at her for a long time, something breaking in his expression. He reached into a drawer and handed her a folded piece of paper. "No names," he said. "No dates, no phones, no questions." Elise unfolded it. An address. A warehouse near the docks. Her partner's last location. Ray looked at her like a man who had already attended her funeral. "Don't go alone," he said quietly. Elise glanced at Lucas. "I'm not." They walked back into the morning light. The city looked the same. It wasn't. The warehouse sat near the water, tucked behind rusted containers and broken fences. Fog rolled in from the lake, thick and gray, swallowing sound. The kind of place where no one asked questions. The kind of place where people vanished. Lucas parked the car a block away. They approached on foot, staying close to the shadows. Elise walked with purpose, her hand resting near her weapon but not gripping it. A professional's posture, alert but calm. Even injured, she carried herself like someone built from discipline and long nights. Lucas watched her movements. Not like a man watching a woman, like a soldier watching another soldier. She pushed open the side door. The hinges groaned. Dust floated in beams of light slicing through the cracks in the ceiling. Inside it was empty, too empty. The floor was clean, swept, cleared of anything that might have mattered. Elise stepped farther inside. Her boots echoed. Her breath stayed measured. She walked to the center of the warehouse and stopped. Her eyes closed, just for a moment. Marcus had stood here, maybe called her name, maybe fought for air, maybe realized he wasn't going home. She did not cry. She would not give this place the honor of her grief. Lucas scanned the perimeter, quiet. "No cameras," he said. "There were," she replied. He understood. Erased. Every trace, every footprint, every second. Elise knelt and examined the floor. The concrete was smooth but not perfect. There were faint scuff marks, boot prints, dragged streaks. Someone had tried to clean fast. She followed the marks toward a corner wall where a paneled section looked slightly off color. She tapped it once. Hollow. "Help me move it," she said. Lucas braced his hands beside hers. Together they pushed. The panel shifted, revealing a narrow maintenance closet. Inside, everything was gone except a single piece of torn fabric caught on a pipe. Elise lifted it. Navy blue, from an officer's uniform shirt. Lucas watched her hands, steady, controlled, but her heartbeat wasn't. She tucked the fabric into her pocket. There was nothing more here. Not for now. She stood and walked back into the open space. The warehouse looked larger now, more empty, more final. Lucas followed her outside. They walked along the waterfront, the wind cold, the city skyline rising behind them like steel and glass bones. "You don't sleep," Lucas said quietly. She didn't look at him. "Sleep is when people get killed," she answered. He didn't argue. They stopped near the railing overlooking the river. Water lapped softly below. For the first time since he met her, Elise's shoulders dropped. Not in surrender, just exhaustion. She spoke without turning her head. "Marcus and I joined the force the same year, same training class. We were assigned our first beat together. He said the badge meant something, that we were supposed to be the line between danger and the people who couldn't defend themselves." Her voice didn't shake, but something inside it did. He didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve to be erased. Lucas looked at her profile. The bruising, the focus in her eyes, the way grief and fury coiled inside her like a held breath. "Then we make sure he isn't," he said. She finally looked at him. Really looked. There was no sympathy in his expression, no empty comfort, just truth. "And why do you care?" she asked. He held her gaze. "Because someone tried to erase me too." The wind pulled her hair across her face. She didn't move it. Two people, different worlds, same wound, not romantic, not soft, something sharper, shared survival. Elise took a slow breath. "We can't go back to the warehouse yet," she said. "They'll be watching. We need to approach it from another angle." Lucas nodded. "I'll contact someone who owes me a debt," he said. "Someone you trust?" she asked. His silence answered for him. No one was trusted, not anymore. Her tone didn't change. "That's enough." They walked back toward the car. The fog swallowed their silhouettes. The city waited ahead, restless and watching. Neither of them looked back. They returned to the city before noon. The clouds had settled low, heavy and gray, pressing the skyline down. It felt like the kind of day when something breaks, or something is revealed. Lucas drove to a small apartment on the west side. Not his, not hers, neutral ground. The hallway lights buzzed. The walls smelled of old paint and damp carpet, a place where no one paid attention to who came and went. Inside, Lucas locked the door and closed the curtains while Elise lowered herself carefully into the chair near the window. Her phone lay on the table in front of her. Cracked. Blood dried along one edge. She tapped the screen. It lit up, weak signal flickering. She opened her messages, not to read the words, but the timestamps. She already knew the truth. She had been ambushed at 9:43 p.m. The first message from Lieutenant Sloan came at 9:44 p.m. "Where are you? Check in. Status. Too fast, too timely. Not concern. Confirmation. proof without needing to say the words. She stared at the screen for a long time. Lucas watched her from across the room. "Say it," he said. She didn't lift her eyes. "Sloan knew where we were that night," she said quietly. "He knew Marcus and I were going to deliver the evidence. He was the only one I reported our location to." Her voice was calm, too calm. "That means Marcus died because of him," she said, not trembling, not emotional, sharp, precise, a truth carved clean. Lucas sat across from her. "What was in the evidence you were delivering?" he asked. Elise didn't answer at first. She stared out the window, the city stretching wide and indifferent below them. "Financial records," she finally said. "Connections between organized crime and union contracts, construction permits, city infrastructure bids, charity funds, money laundering tied into police overtime allocations." Lucas's gaze sharpened. He knew this language. She continued. "Someone was using the police department to protect a private criminal network operating under the illusion of civic development." Lucas exhaled slowly. "Elise," he said. "What was the name on those records?" She finally looked at him, not with uncertainty, with realization. "You already know," she said. Lucas didn't blink. "Victor Lang." Silence, not empty, heavy. The air changed, like pressure shifting before a storm. Elise leaned back, breathing once, steadying herself. Vic was funding precinct initiatives, training programs, patrol development and city regulation. He had been tied to Victor for years. She felt her breath catch in her chest, but she didn't let it show. Lucas watched her expression shift by degrees. "He wasn't just protecting Victor's criminal network," Elise said. "He was expanding it." Lucas nodded. "And the police department? The raids? The investigations?" she continued. "Conveniently directed toward Victor's competitors," Lucas finished. Elise closed the folder slowly, fingers resting on the cardboard. This wasn't corruption. This was architecture. A machine built to appear legitimate, a system designed to look like law enforcement and business progress, a network no one would dare accuse without solid evidence. Lucas exhaled. "We're going to need more than whispers and memory," he said. Elise looked at him. "We'll get it." She moved back to the table and spread out the documents, working methodically now, connecting names, dates, locations. Her movements were quiet, efficient, trained through repetition and long nights in precincts full of stale coffee and fluorescent lights. The rain started again. Soft at first, then harder. The sound filled the glass corners of the penthouse. Lucas watched her work, not her hands, her expression, focused, controlled, unbroken. He saw a woman who had been pushed to the brink and had clawed her way back, not for herself, for someone who could no longer speak. Marcus Hale, her partner, her anchor, his absence was in every detail she touched. Lucas turned away and opened a different drawer. This one held only a small object, a badge, Marcus Hale's badge. The edges were burned, the numbers scarred, but it was real. Elise froze when she saw it. Her eyes didn't widen, but something inside them shifted, like a fault line deep underground. Lucas set the badge gently on the desk. "I took it from the scene," he said. "They left him in the alley, but they didn't expect anyone to arrive before the cleanup crew." Elise stepped closer, very slowly. She reached out and placed 2 fingers on the badge, like touching a grave marker. Her breath moved unevenly, but only once. She closed her hand around it, holding it quietly. It wasn't grief, it was promise. She slipped the badge into her pocket, near her heart. When she spoke again, her voice was steady. "We need access to the evidence vault." Lucas didn't question her. "Precinct headquarters?" he asked. "No," she said. "They'll expect that." She looked at him, eyes clear. "There's another one. Off-book. The one they use for internal investigations. No publicity, no cameras. Only ranking officers have the codes." "And Sloan?" Lucas asked. "He controls it," Elise said. "But I know someone else who does too." Lucas held her gaze. "Who?" Elise's expression didn't change. My partner's sister. She paused. She works inside the department, and she believes Marcus died in an accident. The badge in her pocket felt heavier. She deserves the truth, Elise said. Lucas nodded once. Then he turned off the lights. The city outside flickered. The war had shifted. They drove toward the north side of the city, where the buildings grew newer and the sidewalks cleaner. The kind of neighborhood that pretended not to know what the rest of Chicago endured. Street lamps glowed pale along the quiet blocks. The world here was calm, manufactured calm. Elise sat in the passenger seat, one hand resting on Marcus's badge in her pocket, not holding it, just keeping it close. A reminder, a weight. Lucas drove without speaking. He didn't press her. He didn't try to comfort her. He understood that silence had a place. They reached a row of narrow brick houses with trimmed lawns and small porches. No sign of struggle here, no sirens. No shadows hunting, just life continuing. Elise stepped out of the car and walked up the front steps of a house with a faded blue door. Lucas stayed behind her, but not too close. She knocked once. The door opened a few seconds later. A woman stood in the doorway, late 20s, hair pulled back, eyes tired but warm. She looked like Marcus, the same calm expression, the same quiet strength. "Elise," she said, not surprised, not relieved, just unsure. Elise nodded. "Hi, Lena." Lena stepped aside and let them in. The house was small but clean. Photographs lined the walls. Marcus in uniform, Marcus at a barbecue, Marcus smiling with one arm wrapped around Lena. The room smelled like morning coffee and laundry detergent. Lena motioned toward the kitchen table. "Sit. I'll make tea." Elise didn't move. "There's something I have to tell you." Lena stopped. The kettle stayed unboiled. The air stilled. She turned slowly. "Elise," she said quietly, "they told me what happened. I already know." Elise shook her head once. "No. You know what they said, not what happened." Lena's jaw tightened. For a moment she didn't speak. Then she sat. Elise sat across from her. Lucas remained standing, his presence silent but grounding. Elise spoke gently but directly. "Marcus was killed because we uncovered corruption inside the department. Someone internal leaked our location. Someone who wanted us silenced." Lena's breath caught. She blinked rapidly, holding her composure. Elise continued, "I survived. Barely. And I've been trying to find proof since the night it happened." Lena didn't cry. She didn't break. She stared at Elise with eyes that already suspected the truth, but had been waiting for someone to give permission to believe it. "Who?" Lena whispered. Elise hesitated. The answer mattered. It would change everything. "Lieutenant Grant Sloan," she said. The name dropped heavy into the room. Lena leaned back in her chair, hand covering her mouth. Her eyes shined, not with tears, but with something sharper, not grief, rage. "I trusted him," she said softly. "He came here. He told me Marcus died because of a suspect gone wrong. He hugged me." Elise's eyes lowered. "I know." Lena breathed in, long and unsteady, like trying not to drown. Then she stood. She opened a drawer and pulled out a key card. White, unmarked, simple. Elise looked up. Lena spoke in a voice that did not tremble. "Marcus gave this to me the night before he died. He said if anything ever happened, I'd know what to do with it." Elise accepted the key card slowly, reverently. "This gets into the internal evidence vault," Lena said. "The one no one talks about. The one they keep off the record." Elise nodded. "It does." Lena's breath shook once, then she steadied. "Finish what he started," she said. Elise didn't say thank you. She just bowed her head. Respect. Promise. Oath. They left the house as quietly as they came. Walking down the steps, Elise's hand tightened around the keycard, but her other hand, the one in her coat pocket, froze. Her phone was vibrating. "Unknown number." She answered. A voice spoke through static, low and familiar. Elise. Her blood ran cold. Sloan. "You've been busy," he said. His tone was smooth, even, almost warm. Elise's breath stilled. Lucas stopped beside her, watching her face. Sloan continued. "I'd like to talk, in person, before things get beyond repair." Elise said nothing. Sloan's voice lowered. "We both know how this ends. Let's make sure it ends clean." The line clicked dead. Elise lowered the phone slowly. Her face didn't change. Lucas didn't ask. She slid the phone back into her coat. "We go tonight," she said. Lucas nodded. No fear, no pause. The city lights reflected in their eyes. War was no longer coming. It was here. Night covered the city in deep blue and steel black. Traffic had thinned. Streetlights buzzed faintly against the damp air. The city exhaled, unaware of what was shifting inside it. Elise and Lucas parked 2 blocks from the precinct. Not the public building, the administrative annex beside it. A place most citizens never entered, a place where cases were born or erased. The key card felt warm in Elise's pocket, not just a tool, a fingerprint of Marcus's last decision. They moved through the alley behind the building. No cameras here, no patrols, just brick walls and puddles reflecting neon. Elise touched the card to a small black panel hidden beside a utility door. A light blinked green. The door clicked open. They stepped inside. The smell hit first. Old paper, dust, bleach, secrets trying to stay clean. The hallway was narrow and long. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Elise walked with purpose, shoulders straight, pain forgotten. Lucas stayed behind her, watchful, silent. They reached a heavy steel door. Evidence Storage C. Not listed on public floor plans, not acknowledged in department guides. Elise held the keycard to the scanner. Another click. The door opened. Inside were shelves of locked cases, thick files, sealed envelopes, but most shelves were empty. Elise's steps slowed. The vault hadn't been abandoned. It had been cleared. Someone had already come through and wiped the record of her investigation clean. Her throat tightened, not with panic, with fury. Lucas walked toward a small desk built into the back wall. A single computer sat there, screen dark. He tapped the keyboard. A login prompt appeared. "Internal server," he said. Elise moved beside him. "Marcus and I worked here," she said. "We weren't supposed to, but we did. He found something on these servers, something that scared him." Lucas typed. The system asked for a passcode. Elise typed Marcus's badge number. The system rejected it. She paused. Then she typed the number backward. The screen opened. Lucas looked at her once. Marcus had prepared for betrayal long before it arrived. Elise navigated the archived records. Folder structures scrolled by, case dates, precinct notes, evidence logs. Then she saw it. A hidden directory. Not labeled, not listed, just a symbol, a circle with a diagonal slash, the same symbol scratched into the phone of the man who tried to kill her. Her breath stopped. She opened the folder. Video files. One stood out. Date stamped the night Marcus died. She clicked it. The footage played. A warehouse. Dim. Rain. 2 figures. Marcus, injured, leaning against crates. Another man standing over him. Lieutenant Sloan. No mask. No hesitation. Marcus spoke, muffled, but Elise knew his voice. "You don't have to do this." Sloan's reply was calm. "You weren't supposed to look deeper. You forced my hand." Marcus tried to stand. He fell to one knee. Sloan lifted his gun. The shot echoed, hollow and distant in the small room. Marcus fell. Elise didn't move, didn't breathe. Lucas watched her face. The screen continued. Sloan wiped the gun, made a call. A voice answered on the other end. Clear, recognizable. Victor Lang. Lucas's expression changed. No shock, just confirmation. Elise closed the video. Cole stepped back. Her hands were steady. He didn't argue. Too steady. He didn't demand Lucas updates. Spoke quietly. He didn't speak. Now we have stepped back, like someone who had finally realized the shape of the damage. Her voice had gone somewhere deeper, hours more passed, silent, more dangerous. She turned away from the computer, steady and calm. Her eyes were dark now. Cole sat beside her bed, cold, not touching her. They're not afraid of the law, she said. Sitting. They think they own it. A man built from steel and confidence, nodded once, now hollowed out. They do. Fragile. Until someone takes it no back. One could see, but everyone could feel. Elise walked toward the exit. He leaned forward, she stopped elbows at the doorway. On his knees. She didn't look back, covering his face. There is no clean ending now, in grief, she said. The grief of understanding something too late. But before they reached the hallway, the door opened quietly. A voice echoed behind them. Cole didn't look up. You should have left it buried. He felt the change in the air. Lieutenant Grant Sloan stood in the doorway. The silence deepened. Not in uniform. Grant Sinclair stepped inside. Hands relaxed at his sides. His expression unreadable. He didn't reach for her gun. Looked at his daughter. Neither did he. Saw the eyes. His eyes settled on her. Saw the bruise beneath the sleeve she hadn't managed to hide. His jaw did not clench. His breath did not stutter. You don't get to say his name, she replied. His stillness was the most dangerous thing in the room. Regret. Cole finally looked up. You think you're doing the right thing, not with shouting. You think you're fighting evil, but you have no idea how deep this goes. First. Calm, who protects controlled, me, who funds each me, word placed like a blade the very on badge you swear you're defending. You touched my daughter. Elise's voice was quiet, no dramatic emphasis. You killed Marcus. A statement. Plain, Sloan didn't flinch. Inevitable. He left me no choice. Cole's breath caught. What happens to people who try to change systems that were not built to be changed. Thick, heavy, absolute. Elise stepped forward. Not a warning. A verdict, she said. The hospital room door clicked softly shut. Sloan's eyes hardened, sealing the world down to three people. The same mistake. A father, a husband, Lucas, and the woman they both had failed in different ways to intercept. Ava slept, the hallway flickered, unaware of the war taking shape around her. The city outside kept breathing. Cole stood slowly. The standoff had begun, as if gravity had doubled. The hallway was silent except for the soft hum of the overhead lights. Voice strained. Sloan stood at one end. Grant lifted one hand at the other. Just one. No raised weapons. And the room fell silent again. Not yet. There was no threat in the gesture. This was the kind of moment that no aggression, which way a city authority. The kind that didn't break to prove itself. You're outnumbered, you will not speak to her, said, Grant said, and you know it. Cole swallowed. Elise stepped forward. She's my wife. Slow and deliberate. Her posture Grant steady. Stepped closer. His expression still calm, she said, untouched by rage. I just need truth. A wife is not something you own. Not quite a smile. The words were simple. You think they cut deeper than shouting ever could. This department doesn't run Cole's voice shook. It runs not on with anger, but on the collapse of certainty. Elise didn't blink. I didn't know she was pregnant. You mean fear? Grant nodded. His jaw tightened, almost gently. Footsteps approached from the far end of the corridor. Not Two officers turned the corner, silence hands again. Resting near their holsters. Cole's jaw tightened. They slowed. The fight inside him was not to defend himself, one of them, but to understand how he became the man standing here now. Ramirez had been Marcus's academy roommate. Said quietly. He had carried Marcus's coffin. Didn't move. His eyes flicked to Elise's bandages. Her posture, the look in her eyes. Then Cole he looked at Sloan. Something in his face shifted with the sound of truth landing where denial Ramirez said quietly. His voice held at his daughter sleeping. Sloan's tone snapped sharp. Her stomach. Ramirez, rising and falling escort Detective softly. Carter into custody. Her face she is peaceful, armed and a threat to departmental integrity. Ramirez didn't move. He looked at Elise again. Looking at Cole. Elise held his gaze. You will not go pleading, home, he not said. Demanding. You just will say the nothing. Truth. Standing you will unshaken. Move nothing. You will sign what is placed in front of you when the time comes. They killed Marcus. Cole stared at silence. Him. Shock. The second officer, Dawes, looked between them. You're taking fingers twitching near his holster. Grant finally turned to meet his eyes. Newer, still learning who owned his future. Quiet. Sloan's voice cut like steel. You gave her up. Follow your orders. The breath left Ramirez's body like something had been knocked out of him. Then he stepped forward. Grant didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Some sentences do not require volume to be permanent. Not this time. He walked toward the doors, unsure where to stand. His back to Cole split clean down the center. If you ever place your hand on her again, not anger, I will not ruin you in court. Calculation, I will remove you. He was already rearranging your board. You don't understand what you're doing. Not loud, Sloan said quietly. It didn't need to be. Ramirez lifted his chin. The door closed. Maybe not. And the silence but I know what I'm not was doing. Not the silence of avoidance. I'm not helping you cover the murder of the best man I ever served beside. Cole sat back down, Dawes swallowed sinking hard. Into the chair like a man finally seeing the damage from the outside. He looked at Ava. Then at his own hands. The
Hands
silence
that
did.
had once touched her
Something
gently.
in Dawes's eyes
Hands
broke.
that had also hurt
He
her.
stepped back.
Hands that
The
had
hallway
believed
shifted
control
again.
was love.
Lines redrawn.
His voice
Power
broke,
redistributed.
barely audible.
No guns raised.
What have I
no
done?
punches thrown.
There was
Just
no answer.
choice.
Only the steady
And choice
heartbeat
was
monitor.
enough.
Soft,
Sloane exhaled,
unforgiving,
long and shallow.
real. Ava woke
You
in the
think
late
loyalty
afternoon.
makes you righteous,
The room
he
quiet
said.
except for the
But your
monitor's
children
gentle
playing
rhythm.
in a field of wolves.
She blinked slowly,
Elise
letting the
spoke
world
softly.
return in pieces.
We're
The
not
hospital
children
ceiling,
anymore.
the faint scent of
Sloane looked
antiseptic,
at her one last
the weight
time.
of the blanket over her
Not
legs.
with hatred, with
Her hand
certainty.
moved instinctively to her stomach.
You cannot stop, Victor.
The steady reassurance was still
Elise
there.
didn't respond with
She
fury or
exhaled.
threat.
Then
Just
she
truth.
noticed the chair beside her bed.
We're not trying to stop him,
Empty,
she said. We're
Cole
going to
was gone.
expose him.
But someone
Sloane
else sat
stepped
in
back,
the corner, still
retreating,
and watchful.
not defeated.
Malik Reyes.
This wasn't his battlefield.
Dark suit.
Not yet.
Unobtrusive
He turned
presence.
and disappeared
A
down
man
the
built
opposite
to
hall.
disappear into
The
rooms
click of
until
his shoes
needed.
echoing off
Ava
cold
didn't
walls.
startle. She simply looked
Ramirez
at him.
exhaled shakily.
You're my father's.
What now?
She said softly.
He asked.
Malik
Elise
nodded
didn't
once.
hesitate.
Not an apology.
We take everything
not a
we just
confession,
found,
a
and
confirmation.
we make sure the city sees it.
Yes.
Lucas nodded.
Ava closed her eyes briefly.
Not triumph.
She wasn't surprised.
Focus.
She wasn't relieved.
The war had shifted
she was
again.
seen.
No longer Elise
Malik
against
stood
the
and
department.
stepped closer.
Now the
placing a
department was
folder on the
choosing
tray
sides.
beside her bed.
Ramirez
He
drove.
didn't open it.
Elise
He
sat
didn't
beside
explain.
him, silent, focused.
He wanted you to decide
Lucas
when.
rode in the back,
Malik said quietly.
watching the streets pass like
Ava
veins
looked
of
at
the
the
city
folder,
twisting beneath
thin,
streetlights.
unassuming.
They didn't
But
go to
weighty
the precinct.
in a way paper shouldn't
They
be.
didn't go to the
It
press.
held
Not yet.
documentation.
They went to a
timelines,
public place,
records,
a parking
testimonies,
garage overlooking
and
the
the
river.
legal foundation to
Open,
take back her life.
exposed.
Ava
Too
didn't reach
visible for
it.
a quiet
Not yet.
execution.
Does he
Too
know?
risky for
She
Sloane to
asked.
send shooters,
Cole,
but not
Malik
risky
asked in
enough to keep
return.
Victor away.
Ava nodded.
They waited near
Yes,
the edge of the
Malik
rooftop,
said. He
wind
knows.
cutting cold across concrete.
Ava looked out the window.
Night air
Sunlight
tasted
poured
like
in,
iron
warm
and rain.
and indifferent. She
Elise
wasn't
held
afraid.
the flash
not
drive in her
anymore.
hand.
Fear
The
requires
evidence.
uncertainty.
Marcus's
She no longer
last
had any.
message to the world.
Do you want to leave him
Headlights
today?
appeared across the
Malik
roof level.
asked.
The black
question was
sedan
not
rolled
gentle,
to a stop.
not harsh.
Victor
just
Lang
present.
stepped out. Tall.
Ava didn't answer
well-dressed,
immediately.
calm.
She placed her hand over
the kind
her
of
stomach
calm
and
that
breathed
came
in
from knowing
deeply.
the city bent
No,
around him.
she said.
Sloane stepped
Malik
out
didn't
from the
react.
passenger side.
Ava's eyes
No
were steady
uniform,
when they lifted to
just
his.
the weight of his authority.
I want him to see
They
what he
walked
lost.
forward. Victor
Not
spoke
vengeance.
first.
Not spite.
Detective Carter.
Truth.
I was told you were dead.
Malik nodded once.
Elise didn't respond.
Then we moved carefully.
Victor's eyes shifted to
Ava
Lucas.
reached for the folder.
And you.
Her hands did not shake.
I should have known you would
because
not
she
stay
had not
buried,
been
waiting to be saved. Lucas
She
didn't
had been
move.
preparing.
Victor's voice
Quietly,
stayed smooth.
deliberately. Her
You
notes,
both misunderstand
her
the
timestamps,
situation.
The discreet
This city
doctor
functions
visits,
because of order.
The email drafts
I provide
never
that
sent.
order.
The hidden
You
phone
disrupt
she
it.
kept behind the nursery
Elise
door that
stepped
didn't yet
forward.
exist.
You murdered a
Ava
police
had not
officer to
endured
protect
without
your
purpose.
empire.
Ava had recorded
Victor didn't blink.
every bruise,
I
every
removed the
silence,
liability.
every apology
Ramirez's
that came
hand
too late.
inched toward his holster.
Not because she
Sloane
expected
saw it.
justice,
Don't.
but because she
Sloane
refused
said
to forget
quietly.
her own truth.
Elise
She
lifted the
opened
flash
the folder.
drive. Does goes
Inside,
public.
above everything else, was
Victor
a single
smiled.
page.
No, it
A
doesn't.
custody petition.
More headlights.
Her name.
More cars.
Her
more
unborn
men stepping
child's
out.
status.
10.
Maybe
Cole's
12
name.
listed beneath the heading.
Ramirez swore under his
Respondent.
breath. Lucas
Ava
didn't
traced
break
the
his
margin
gaze
with her
from
thumb.
Victor.
Then she said
You
it.
always
The
overplayed
words
your
that marked
hand,
the exact
Lucas
moment
said.
survival turned
Victor's
into
smile
decision.
remained.
Help me leave
And
the
you
right
always
way.
underestimated
Malik nodded.
mine.
It has already
Elise
begun.
breathed once, slow.
3 floors down.
Then she
outside
tossed the flash
hospital,
drive over
a
the
black
edge of the
sedan
roof.
waited.
Victor's eyes
Grant
widened.
Sinclair watched the
It didn't
building.
fall. Hands a drone folded lifted
behind
from
his
below,
back,
catching
expression
it
calm.
mid-air. Not
A small
triumphant,
device,
not furious.
silent,
Just
remote
ready,
piloted.
prepared. Lucas spoke
Silent.
quietly. A man
We're
who
not
had moved
alone.
his final piece.
From the opposite corner
Inside,
of the roof,
Ava
cameras
closed the
clicked
folder.
on.
Her heartbeat
Lenses
steady,
pointed.
her breath
Red
even,
blinkers
her
recording.
future shifting beneath her
Reporters
feet.
stepped out.
Not away
3
from
of them.
something, with microphones,
Towards something.
live stream rigs,
Toward freedom.
news vans parked below. The courthouse smelled of
Victor's
paper
expression
and polished
finally
floors.
cracked.
The air cold
Elise's
from
voice
overworked
was
air
steady.
conditioning. You said the
Ava
city
walked
runs
slowly,
on power. Each step
That's
steady.
true.
Her hand
But
resting
power only
lightly
works
over
when
her
people
abdomen.
don't see what's behind it.
She wore a simple dress.
She stepped toward
soft
him.
gray, long
Now they
sleeves,
see.
no jewelry.
Sloane
No
reached for
performance,
his gun.
no costume.
Ramirez drew faster.
Just truth. Don't. Cole
Ramirez
was
warned.
already there.
Sloane
He stood
froze.
near the far wall,
Victor's
suit
phone
immaculate.
buzzed. He looked.
Posture rigid,
His face went
jaw
pale.
tight enough to
The footage
tremor.
had already broadcast.
He looked like a man
The
being
warehouse.
watched. watched, the shot, not by others, Marcus
but
falling,
by his own reflection.
Sloane's voice broke for
He
the
didn't
first
speak.
time.
He
You
didn't
didn't
move toward her.
understand. I was trying to protect Elise,
not
cut him
with
off.
anger, not with
You
pride.
protected yourself.
With loss.
Sloan lowered his
Raw,
gun to the ground.
undeniable,
Slow,
undressed
defeated.
of ego.
Victor did
Ava
not.
did not look
He
away.
lunged. Lucas
Malik
moved
stood
faster.
beside her,
Two
briefcase
men
in hand.
collided. A
Grant
struggle
stood behind her,
The sound
not
of metal
touching,
skidding
but
across
present,
concrete.
unmoving.
Victor reached for
Anchoring.
Lucas's throat. Lucas
The hallway
slammed
was
his arm
quiet
into
except
Victor's
for the
ribs.
echo of distant
Victor
footsteps
slipped.
and the
One
faint
step.
rustle of
Two.
paperwork behind
He
closed
fell
doors.
over the edge.
A bailiff
Silence.
opened a side door
The city
and called,
below swallowed him.
Harrington v.
Sloan
Harrington.
closed his eyes.
Preliminary hearing.
Rain began to fall.
No one moved at first.
Police arrived.
Because
Not
the moment
Sloan's
before
men,
something ends
not
is still
Victor's.
part of the ending.
Others.
Then,
Ones who had watched
a soft
quietly.
cry.
Ones who had
Small,
waited for the moment the city
new,
shifted.
fragile.
Ramirez surrendered
A
his
nurse
weapon.
rounded the corner
Not
carrying
because he
an
was
infant
guilty,
in a light blanket.
because he wasn't.
A baby just days
Sloan
old
was handcuffed
with the small,
without resistance.
soft, uncertain
His
presence
eyes
of
stayed
new
on
life.
Elise the entire time.
Ava turned.
Not hatred.
Her daughter.
Not regret.
Hair dark.
Recognition.
Face small and luminous
I
with
taught
that
you too
quiet
well,
seriousness
he said
newborns
softly.
carry. Ava
Elise
reached
didn't
out,
answer.
and the nurse
She
placed the
didn't need
baby
to.
gently into her arms.
Everything was already done.
Her breath trembled.
Lucas
just
stood
once,
beside her,
and then
breathing
steadied.
steady despite
Ava's
the fight.
world
The
shifted
fall,
into place.
The storm
Not
inside
loud,
the night.
Not dramatic.
Elise closed
just
her
sure.
eyes for a moment.
Cole
Not to
stepped
break.
forward.
To
He
remember.
didn't reach out. He didn't
Marcus's
claim.
laugh.
He didn't demand.
His jokes during
He
long
only
shifts.
looked.
The way he
His
believed
eyes
the badge
softened in a
meant
way
something.
that did not excuse
She
him.
placed his badge
Did
on the
not
hood of a
redeem him.
patrol car.
Did not
A
rewrite
symbol
the
returned
past,
to the world,
but
not
revealed
erased,
something true.
not forgotten.
He did not know
The
how
city
to love
breathed
gently,
differently now,
but he still felt.
Something had cracked.
The baby stirred.
Something had
a small
opened.
sound.
The
tiny
rain washed
sigh.
blood from the
Cole's
concrete and
voice
carried
came
it
low,
down into the drain
cracking on its
systems
way
beneath
out.
the city.
Can I?
Where secrets
See her?
usually went.
Not hold.
Tonight.
Not take.
Tonight,
See.
secrets surfaced.
Ava looked at him. Not with
Morning
hate,
came slow.
not with forgiveness.
Elise stood on
With
the balcony
clarity.
of Lucas's penthouse.
She shifted the
watching
baby
the
slightly,
sky fade
allowing
from
him to
gray
see her
to pale
face.
gold.
Nothing more.
The city was awake again.
Cole's breath left
Different.
him. His hands,
Even if no one
the
knew
same
it yet.
hands that once held
The news
power
was
like a
everywhere.
weapon, now hung
Corruption
at his sides,
exposed.
open.
Police lieutenant
empty.
arrested.
He whispered,
Business mogul investigated
"She has
for
your
organized
eyes."
influence.
Ava nodded.
Elise watched it
She
play
will
across
have my
screens
peace.
silently.
Cole's
Ramirez
face
had
broke,
been
not
reinstated.
into tears, not
Dawes
into
had
collapse,
testified.
but
Sloan
into
was in
understanding.
custody,
The
awaiting
kind that
charges.
arrives too late.
Victor Lang's
The
death
bailiff's
was
voice
ruled as
echoed.
accidental.
Whenever
No
you're
one
ready.
believed that. No one
Ava
would ever
turned
prove
toward the
otherwise.
courtroom door.
The city knew
Grant
enough.
stepped beside her.
Elise
Malik
breathed
walked just
in
behind
slowly.
Cole, remained
The
where he
air
stood.
felt cold.
As
clean.
Ava entered the courtroom, she
Lucas
did not
stepped
look
beside
back.
her. Neither
Some
spoke.
chapters are not meant to be
Some
reread.
things didn't need words.
The door
war
closed.
wasn't over.
The sound
Just
was
one
soft.
front.
The home
The
Ava
system that
returned
had
to
killed
was not
Marcus
the
still
mansion.
existed.
It was a
But
quiet
now it
house
had
tucked
cracks,
behind oak trees,
and cracks
where the
spread.
morning light came in
Elise
soft and
reached into her
unforced.
pocket and held
Her
Marcus's
daughter
badge.
slept in a bassinet
The
near
metal
the
was
window,
worn,
wrapped in
edges
a pale
rough,
cream blanket.
weight familiar.
Tiny hands
She
balled
placed
into
it gently
soft
on the
fists.
balcony ledge.
Ava
Not
spoke
letting
to
go,
her often,
just
not in long
setting
stories,
it down.
just truths,
A beginning,
spoken
not
gently.
an end.
You are
Lucas
safe
looked at
here.
her.
You
What
are
now?
wanted.
Elise
You will
continued
never
watching
learn
the city.
love through fear.
We keep going.
She moved
nodded.
through her days
Not as an
slowly,
ally,
adjusting,
not as a protector.
healing.
As someone who
bruise
had
on her
survived
arm
the same
faded.
fire,
The bruises
someone who
inside her
understood.
did not
she
yet,
turned her head slightly.
but they no longer owned her.
You're staying? Grant
Lucas
visited
answered
every
simply,
day. Yes. Never asking questions. They stood in the
Just
quiet
sitting.
morning light, sometimes drinking
Two
tea.
people
who were not
sometimes
saved,
watching the baby
not
healed,
sleep, not finished.
a father
but
learning how
alive,
to stand beside
and
his
not
daughter,
alone, rather than
the
in front
city
of her.
stretched before them.
Ava
bruised,
was learning too.
beautiful,
How to be
worth
something
fighting
other
for.
than silent. Cole did not call. He did not appear. But his absence was not peace. It was a presence, a shadow, a memory, a question left unanswered. He attended every court session. He complied with every order. He signed what he was given. But he never fought, not because he agreed, because he didn't know who he was anymore. One evening, the house was quiet. Ava stood by the window, her daughter sleeping in her arms, the sky outside fading to a deep, soft blue. The phone on the table buzzed, not loudly, just once. A text from an unknown number. Ava stared at it for a long moment before reaching for the phone. The screen lit softly. Unknown number. You think you know why he changed. Ava's heart stilled. Another message followed, slow, deliberate. But you don't know who taught him to, and you don't know what comes next. A pause. One final text. This story didn't start with him, and it won't end there. Ava looked down at her daughter. The baby slept peacefully, unaware of the world waiting outside the walls of safety built for her. Ava's voice was quiet, steady. "I'm not afraid anymore." She didn't know who sent the message. Not yet. But she would, because the difference between who she was then and who she was now was simple. She would not be silent again. She would not be hunted again. She was no longer surviving. She was preparing. The storm had passed. But another was forming, far away, quiet, unseen. And Ava would be ready.